Hello guys, I am back. This is one day before I'm actually gonna release this video, so it's Saturday right now. I'm still constantly listening to Caramel by Sleep Token. That song is heckin' amazing, so go listen to it if you haven't. And today we're gonna be watching The Art of Game UI, Good versus Boring, by Angeli Katosh? I have no idea. I probably butchered his name. Yeah, you can see it here. Yeah, I completely butchered her name. Probably. The first video I'm watching of her. So yeah, let's see what it's about.
Game design as an art is a combination of several different skill sets that are brought together to create worlds for players that we can really immerse ourselves in. When we talk about good game design, we think about things like world design, mechanics, storytelling, or overall writing. One thing that I find more often than not is taken for granted is UI. User interface is the thing that keeps you company and kind of holds your hand through the entirety of any given game. It's the first thing that you want to get to know when you launch a new game so that you can successfully interact with the world and all of
Just
the
turn off
other
my alarm
elements
real
that
quick.
make video games an art. When it's done well, seeing a tiny element of UI from one of your favorite games will make you want to immediately go back to that world. When it's done poorly, it can affect your overall experience in a game and ultimately even be the thing that makes you lose interest in a particular title.
Bethesda really doesn't get UI right. I have to say, from the games I played. Like Skyrim UI, it's it's something else. And Fallout as well. I it's not good. That's why there's so many mods that give you more clarity and all that sorting all of that stuff. One thing I really like when games do it, like it's a really small thing, but it brings a joy to me at least. It's when your mouse cursor is like a little hand or a sword or something like it was showing at the start there.
Even if you don't immediately realize that UI was what ruined it for you. Today we're going to talk about game UI as an art form, and how, when it's done well, it's the thing that helps you delve fully into a game to the point that sometimes you forget that there's a disconnect between the real world and your screen, or how it can bore you out of playing a particular title. Before we get started, hi, my name is Angelica, and I'm really sorry about the super strange lighting in this video. I have to film at this really weird time because I'm a mom now, and I've
So it's Angelica. Told you I was gonna butcher it.
a very tight schedule. You might hear my manager in the background. Also, please ignore Gordon Fleeman over there. So first things first, what is
Also, congrats on becoming a mother.
game UI? User interface is the bridge between you and the digital in-game world. It is made up of visual and interactive components that facilitate the connection to these digital worlds. It's what allows you to play games. Game UI is broken into 4 classes, and the first of these that we're going to discuss is non-diegetic UI. Non-diegetic means that it is not part of the game story or the game space. In-game characters do not know about its existence. These are things that will make up your overlay, like your health, stamina, mana, rage, energy, or whatever else you have. Action bars containing your spells, inventories, skills. This of course includes things like menus. I want to focus on menus first, particularly starting from when you launch a game and you're presented with a screen where you see start game and load game options, or settings, credits, and an exit game button. I think that this is such a crucial element of user interface because it is the thing that gives you the first impression of the game that you're about to play. It'll often have you partially make up your mind before you've even started playing. The first title screen and menu that you see can really set the vibe of the game that you're about to play. You'll get an immediate feel for a couple of things here. So, like I've said, the overall vibe, then music, because that's also part of UI, and sometimes general sound design and the game's font.
That right there. That is perfection. Dark Souls 2, the classic, the Tanamura special. No one can beat it. Okay, all joking aside, some of the menuing in Dark Souls 2 is pretty unintuitive, I do gotta say. And let's not get too deep into the stats and all that are shown there that are just not there sometimes. What is wrong? But yeah, DS2, great game. Uh, Also from the games that were shown before, like Warcraft, not Warcraft, World of Warcraft I'm playing recently. The UI is definitely overwhelming at first. I'm kind of getting into it now, but if you have never played one, it's really difficult to figure out what is going on. So yeah, I am not 100% sure if that's a good UI. What else was there shown? Diablo, yeah, I played a few of those. That UI is actually pretty good, in my opinion. I like it. It's pretty clear. No, nothing. Also, let me turn on my alerts. No added clutter that doesn't have to be on the screen, in my opinion.
which is a bigger deal than often given credit to. A really good menu is supposed to be like a portal or a gateway to this other world that you're going to explore, one that accurately reflects the kind of adventure that you're about to have. Menus can be static in that no matter
Oh yeah, and Elder Scrolls Bethesda. I talked about that before.
where you're at in the game, you can get the same screen that you always see when launching, or it can progress with you as you're going through the story. An example of this is something like Half-Life 2, which changes the background of the title screen based on your last checkpoint.
I like when games do that. That's actually pretty cool. If you have a changed background in the title screen when you go back to a game. Like nowadays, like if it isn't a super long game, most of the time I beat them in like one playthrough or obviously one playthrough in one sitting when I stream or something. So I don't get to experience that as much, but it's definitely a cool feature, especially for, younger generations and all of that.
Some menus can be more interactive and they can also have secrets or Easter eggs, like the Black Ops 1 menu where you can escape the interrogation chair and enter some codes on a computer to unlock certain achievements. Most games will have the same title background regardless of where you're at, and one specific menu that I want to discuss right now is from 2004's Painkiller. Launching the game and seeing this title screen puts you in the world immediately. The whole screen is in this sort of worn parchment format, like an ancient text. The background features a winged demon, and the border has some sort of runes or hieroglyphics which make it sort of mysterious, and then the buttons themselves look old and worn, as if they've been clicked on many times by many adventurers. A nice touch is that instead of start game or play game, you have sign the pact, which in this context is like signing a deal with the devil or the demon. But what really ties it together for me is the sound design. Have a listen to the sounds that the buttons make as you're navigating the menu.
Before I do that, like something like that, like something like the small sign the pact instead of starting a game. I think most games aren't doing that anymore. I don't know why. If it's just something, they feel like didn't get much appreciation or something. Like small things like that I really like, but it's not done as much in modern games anymore, sadly.
These demonic sounds are
Okay, some of it is a bit too much, but I definitely get the point she's trying to make. It's really immersive to have those sounds.
part of what set the tone for the world that you're about to delve into, and this particular style is present throughout the game in loading screens, sub-menus with options, and the load save game screen. There are minimal UI elements on your screen when you're in the game, just enough to give you all the information that you need without cluttering your space like you're playing World of Warcraft. Which, by the way, if you're playing World of Warcraft, that's sort of where you'll want more stuff on your screen, but I think some people really overdo it. It's not World of Warcraft, it's more like World of stuff on your screen craft. For shooter games in general, like Painkiller,
Good one.
like Quake, like any Call of Duty, you don't want too many UI elements on screen. At most, maybe you'd add something like quest objectives or a mini-map at the top, but really keeping your screen clean in these sort of games is best. In general, a stylized menu like the one in Painkiller is a foundation from which the rest of the
Definitely
game UI
agree.
is created. A consistent and coherent look that suits the world and the type of game that you're playing. More and more, we're seeing games move away from these stylized menus and take on a more minimalistic or simple look. To give an example which is the complete opposite of what we just looked at with Painkiller, let's talk about Skyrim. The Skyrim title menu features a completely black screen with the game's logo on one side and buttons on the other.
Yeah, like there's no immersion, no real in I don't even I can't pronounce it. My brain is going numb. It's not individually like pleasing as much as the other one.
Font doesn't really look like something that would necessarily fit into a fantasy world. It's rather plain and again minimalistic, and it's a stark contrast from the previous Elder Scrolls games that featured more interesting looking title screens, particularly Oblivion. It feels like it doesn't do justice to the game overall, as Skyrim is actually quite beautiful. It is vast and mysterious, dangerous and magical, and the UI, the menus, your inventory, are rather underwhelming. I will say I really like the menu for assigning skill points when you level up, the fact that they're using constellations for the different signs, and I wish there was more of that sort of vibe in the whole character menu, but alas, we're just given a black background with a list of items and a picture of the physical item to one side. I've mentioned this already, but again, this is in stark contrast to Oblivion, where not only did you have a stylized character menu in the form of maybe a journal or a book in this parchment color, and instead of showing the physical in-game object as it is on the menu, they have separate artwork to depict what it is that you actually have. They went out of their way to create these small icons for every in-game item. They look magical and
I didn't play Oblivion, just to be clear. So I didn't know about this, but damn, that is great. I feel like nowadays they just remaster Skyrim like 7 times and call it a day.
serve as another fantastical component that helps you fully immerse yourself in this world. And that's not to speak of all of the other artwork for skills and choosing your class, everything in between that maybe you don't even think of. Skyrim's UI has one saving grace, and it is because of how iconic the game itself is, this overly simplistic UI is widely recognizable as Skyrim across the board. For example, I've even used this black background with the smoke in it for thumbnails, which I think have been quite effective in conveying what game we're talking about, maybe even without including the logo at all. But overall, for fantasy RPGs, I personally do not like this minimalism, because then you start to see it in other games like, for example, Elden Ring, and I mean, for the game that it is, this could have been so much better.
The saving grace for Elden Ring menu is the soundtrack. And the button sounds, like when you move between, is also nice. FromSoft always get those right. But yeah, their menus are pretty minimalistic. But like, that's like, I played a lot of FromSoft games, so it's kind of what I expect now. Like Bloodborne is probably the most most I can't think of words right now. Jesus, what is wrong with me? Most visually pleasing, which isn't minimalistic. Demon Souls, I guess, as well, the new one. I didn't play the original, so I can't say how that one looked. But yeah, other than that, like DS1, DS2, DS3, it's just black screens. I don't even remember in Sekiro. But Sekiro, I think it's also just one color background, right? I can't remember.
The deep lore and story in Elden Ring and all of the moving parts in that world seem to not really have been considered much in the creation of its title menu and overall UI. A positive thing to be found here, however, is that Elden Ring and the previous Souls-like games all share a consistent UI, which makes it easier for fans of the games to get into.
Yeah, that's kind of the point I was making as well with the menus. Like the FromSoft UI, you know what you're getting. It doesn't change much over the games. So if you played one, you know exactly what is what. And also like the green stamina bar, the red health bar, blue for magic, mana, and then like your inventory at the bottom. It's just very I I'm saying I can't think of words. I guess I need to buy a dictionary or something to hit myself with. Yeah, they're very consistent with it. That's what one is trying to say.
The format that we're used to, and even if Elden Ring is a completely different world and story, having these familiar things in terms of UI is a big bonus for fans of Souls-like games. However, fans of Souls games would also have noticed the way in which overall Elden Ring's menus, character and skill screens, etc. are a lot less detailed, a lot more minimalistic, and less magical. In doing that, this sort of simplification of menus and other UI elements, you're taking away from the art or the artistic elements of user interface. I want to state this very clearly.
I never thought about that. Like I've never had that thought. Not to say that she's wrong, but I never had that thought with Elden Ring that the menu was more minimalistic than the other ones. I always think pretty much the same. I don't see that much of a difference. I guess they have a bit less background. But yeah, I don't think that's too bad. My opinion.
UI is an art form. It is the unspoken look of the game, and when it's done well, you'll see the tiny element from a familiar game, and it'll bring back the feelings you had when you were playing it. Of course, good UI is also ease of navigation, how legible everything is, but for this video, I want to focus on those beautiful things that make it an art. Before moving on to the other classes of UI, I want to take a moment in this video to highlight the user interface of Diablo 2, specifically classic Diablo 2 and Lord of Destruction, not Resurrected. Starting from the title screen, the original pre-Lord of Destruction menu featured the 5 playable classes all stood around a campfire. They are in complete darkness in what looks like the rogue encampment, and the menu buttons are spaced out so you can still see the heroes. The style of the buttons and their font is consistent in the UI throughout gameplay, this cold stone theme adorned with blue gems either side. One thing I've always loved about the HUD, or heads-up display, is that instead of traditional horizontal health bars or hearts, you have orbs either side of your screen with health and mana. The orbs are held up by what looks like 2 stone statues, a woman on the left, likely an angel, holding your health, and a horned man on the right, probably a demon. This is actually swapped around from Diablo 1, where the demon held the health and the angel held the mana. I don't know if that was intentional, but it's just something I noticed.
Yeah, that one is really iconic with Diablo. If you see those balls, you always know it's one of those games. I think PoE is similar though. I'm pretty sure.
I think that the Diablo 2 HUD was a step up from Diablo 1 in that instead of having all this text at the bottom of your screen, you had these little icons for all the different menus that you can access. I also think that the consistent theme of this stone wall for the background for most of the interface is incredibly fitting for this cold and hopeless world. You really have to have a thick skin to survive here. There's no comfort, there's no cushiony or velvety soft elements to this UI. It adds to the overall grittiness of the world. Something that you just can't shake no matter where you go. You can't even hide behind any of the trade windows or your inventory to escape it for a moment. Even the quest window takes on the form of a stone monument as opposed to the journal format which is typical in most RPGs. This grey stone background really makes any color stand out. So for example, the unique quest icons when a particular quest is active really makes it pop and gives it more of a sense of urgency. The same can be said for any items that you find or hold. They stand out quite a lot, and I think this is really important, especially for things like your health and mana potions. Not even that it makes it more beautiful, but rather that it's easier to see it when you have them and when you don't. It's a lot more noticeable that they're missing. And that is crucial if you're playing a hardcore character. I think that Diablo 2 is one of the best examples of UI as an art form, and to this day it will be my favorite HUD out of any other games that I've played. So that was on non-diegetic UI. Now let's take a look at diegetic UI, which is stuff that does make up the game space and the game story. When doing research for this video, one example that constantly came up for me was the Dead Space trilogy. The UI in this game is very clever and innovative, as it doesn't have a traditional HUD with health bars or a separate box to show ammo, etc., but
Dead Space UI is peak. That is peak design. Like, especially when, you know, the first one released, the original. Like, I mean, I obviously haven't seen a lot of stuff like that because I was like, what, like 10, 11 at that time. But it's so nice. You don't have anything that obstructs your vision or something. It's all like a really built into this game world and is so immersive. Like the rig at the back, you see exactly how much health you have. You know when that's low. Oh, crap. I gotta be careful. You see a stasis, you see the ammo in your weapon. And it's also, like, it's immersive and it's realistic in a way. Since if you shoot your weapon, you're not always gonna count how many shots you have in a situation like this where you're an engineer like Isaac and you have to fight necromorphs. So you see it whenever you pull up the weapon, which is the only way he would also see it if he was like the real character.
rather they display those things on your character. There's an article that talks about the immersive excellence of Dead Space's UI, and it's one of many such articles, but here it shows a detailed screenshot of what is shown on your character. When in game, this is all you can see. I think that the absence of a traditional HUD makes it a lonelier and therefore more terrifying experience. Dead Space is, after all, a horror game, and I find that horror is most effective in games that don't have a lot going on the screen in terms of UI. In Dead Space, accessing your inventory and other menus is all done through the character's suit, further adding to the immersion and solidifying the feeling that you're really alone. I think that having on-screen elements like text or health bars that are non-diegetic can at least serve as a reminder that you're playing a game and there's a bridge between you and this world. But without this, again, you're just in the world exactly as it is. No on-screen distractions to soothe the terror and make the world feel less frightening, or at least like there is a fourth wall there. You're just in this. The game knows you're afraid, and it embraces this. With that said,
Outlast as well. Like, horror games that get it right, they do it really well. They do it like almost down to perfection. How much? Resi doesn't have that much going on the screen as well. I'm pretty sure. At least the earlier ones. But yeah, Dead Space. It's just a classic. Let's say it like that. It's a classic. And Outlast, I mean, you're just there with a camcorder, you're just a normal guy. You can really feel that when you have no extra UI, no HUD, nothing.
it is clear to see that sci-fi and futuristic type settings are perfect for this seamless integration of diegetic UI elements. Another example of this is the Fallout Pip-Boy, which your character wears on their arm. This sort of old computer style of the Pip-Boy draws you even deeper into this post-apocalyptic world. Most modern computers probably didn't make it, but this old, sturdy thing that you have on your arm is here to stay with you. I have kind of a weird
The thing with the Pip-Boy, like, I get the design idea. That's obviously great. It's also cool, like, you have to look at your arm to, you know, go around in your inventory, look at the map, all that. But please, make it a bit more clear, a bit faster, please. Let me sort it a bit better.
weird example next, because technically most of the UI elements here are non-diegetic, but that one moment in Half-Life 2 when Gordon first puts on the Hev suit, the soundtrack starts playing and then your health appears on the bottom left corner.
Well, Gordon. see your HEV suit still fits you like a glove.
I feel like this one is almost up to your own interpretation. Is it non-diegetic, only existing for you, or is Gordon also seeing his health appear as a result of putting on this suit, since prior to this you have absolutely nothing other than a crosshair on your screen? The next type of UI that I'd like to talk about is spatial. Some games have little to no spatial UI, others may rely quite heavily on it. It really just depends on the game. A game that I think does spatial UI very well is World of Warcraft, particularly Classic and maybe up to Cataclysm. And I say this because I really don't think I remember too much beyond Cataclysm. I know that as the game progressed, they did kind of add new elements to UI and other things that I don't recognize when I look at retail versions of the game, so that's why I mention it. You of course have the iconic quest markers for available and completed quests over NPCs and sometimes objects. These markers are of a specific yellow color, which is present in a lot of WoW's UI, particularly text on buttons and even the logo of the game itself. This makes it stand out above all other things, makes it especially effective when you see a gray marker that you're not leveled enough to take, or maybe when you find an object where the marker is absent altogether, as if it makes the discovery more meaningful. You can have character names and even nameplates, or you can choose to have absolutely none of that on your screen. Undiscovered flight paths with the green exclamation mark and daily quests are blue. You can easily distinguish them from a distance. Later in Wrath of the Lich King, they introduced like this sparkly effect on items that you need to collect for quests, which does make it a lot easier if objects are in grass, for example. Sometimes it's just really hard to see certain items. I want to bring up Diablo 2 again, but
I mean, effects like that I really like. Just make it a bit more visually clear what you actually have to, pick up or get. It's just clarity shouldn't suffer from having too little on the screen in point of indicators or something like that. And I really have to think today what I'm saying.
But when items drop, they have a label with their name on it so that you can see what you want to pick up or leave behind. Again, the font is consistent, but one thing that we really haven't fully delved into are sound effects. And particularly in Diablo, these can be crucial.
Yeah, in Diablo, you know what kind of item dropped when you hear the sound effect. Like if you have ever played the Diablo, you know exactly what she is talking about.
As different sounds exist for different objects, and you're less likely to miss out on an important treasure when you finish clearing a pack of demons. But from an artistic perspective, it makes gems, jewels, and other valuables feel more expensive and, well, more valuable. Additionally, I also really like it when different objects in games make different sounds as you move them around in your inventory. Again, I think that this just makes it much more immersive. One of my favorite in-game sounds is when you pick up bullets or armor in Quake. It has a really ASMR-like quality that I quite enjoy. The final class of UI that I'd like to mention here is meta. This is stuff that's in the game story, but not in the game space. For example, you get hit and there is blood on your screen, or the screen changes color when you're low on health. Maybe your character has had a bit too much to drink, and so now your screen goes blurry. Meta UI elements exist to tell you about your character's state, whether you are hurt, or drunk, or whatever else may be happening to you. These are often effective in that it can sometimes feel like you were hit in real life. I like when horror games do this especially because it adds to the adrenaline, makes things scarier, and it makes me work more to avoid getting hit. So these are the 4 classes of UI, and I've mostly given examples of when it's done really well, when it adds to a game, when it makes things more immersive. But when the artistic element of UI is ignored, oftentimes it can make things bland, boring, and ultimately you are less attached to the game and its experience.
Yeah, like I said before, like her example of Elden Ring, like I don't fully agree. I don't feel less attached to Elden Ring because of the UI or anything. I don't mind the UI being that simplistic, like in the level up, because the FromSoft games really aren't about that. If you can like if you understand that point what I'm trying to make. Like, it's not about the UI like connecting to the game. Like, you are supposed to connect through the lore and all. Like, I'm not saying her point is wrong or anything. Like, it's a valid point in my opinion. It's it just doesn't matter to me as much. Like, yeah, as I said, the lore and the design of the bosses, the world connects me way more with the game than the UI ever has and ever will, even if they change a lot about it. But yeah, that is just me. So
I've mentioned Skyrim as one such example, but I've kind of also explained why maybe for that particular game it almost works. But Elden Ring, on the other hand, like, it just feels like more could have been done.
like you see the basic things that are in all the FromSoft games, like the defense power, body, attack power, base stats. That's in all of them. And then the attribute points, levels, what you need for next level, and how many souls, runes, whatever you have right now. Like this transparent background and all. Like, I like it. I don't think that's bad. I like this more. And also, since in Elden Ring you have like this open world where you basically level up everywhere. I guess you can as well in DS1, I think. Right? I think DS1 you can level up everywhere as well, every bonfire. Like in DS2, DS3, and Demon Souls, and Bloodborne as well. You level up at a certain point where you're not in the game world, but you're in a hub area. So it makes it easier to make the background a bit more aesthetic, I guess, less transparent. Because in this open world, I feel like it adds if you see where you are. Like, it's different if you level up here. It's different if you level up in Langdell instead of Farum Azula, for example. You have a different kind of feeling because you can see either a big golden city with this giant tree in the background, or you see this destroyed city where rubble is flying through the air. That's what I think about it. But as I said, that's my opinion. Her opinion isn't wrong or anything. I just yeah, I have a different take on it.
Especially when comparing it to other Souls-like games that came before. And an overly simplistic UI doesn't necessarily mean that it's simple to navigate. An example of bad UI are the menus in GTA 5 Online. It feels like you're looking at a wall of text. It takes ages to get anywhere, feels like you're going through instruction manuals in a language that you don't speak. Menus, even if they need to be more simple for whatever the game is, shouldn't be a chore to navigate. One that I personally don't like is the PUBG inventory. I don't know, I just always get confused with the pickup vicinity and my actual inventory. I feel like I always have to spend too much time there, and that's not really ideal in a battle royale scenario. I know I talk about RPGs a lot, and to be honest, I feel a little sad when they opt for a boring Skyrim-like UI, especially if the game is good and has an interesting world. I want this reflected in the UI. Very often, I might just get bored if it doesn't. Like, I really wanted to get into Lost Ark at one point, but the UI there just felt so bland, and I know that this is a game with a huge pre-existing fan base, and I was kind of late to the party as it was, but yeah, I just couldn't get into it, and UI was definitely part of the problem. And that covers it for the art of game UI. The design of the UI depends heavily on the sort of game that you're creating. RPGs require more fantastical UI elements. Shooters may opt for more minimalism. Horror games need something to really pull you into their dark worlds in terms of more immersive and integrated UI elements. There can be overlaps, exceptions to the rules, etc., but one thing is clear. UI is an underappreciated art form that in modern games seems to go down the route of being oversimplified for the sake of dedicating more time to other elements of the game or who knows what else. I am of the opinion that neglecting UI as an art form in games can often do a major disservice to the great work done in other areas of games, and I do hope to see future installments of my favorite games, or just new titles altogether, pay more attention to UI as a whole. And that's that for today's video. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. As always, big thanks to my channel members, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Be seeing you. Bye.
Alright. That was a nice video. As I said, don't agree with everything, but that's completely fine. Also, maybe because I am more attached, I guess, to FromSoft games. I played a lot of them. I have wasted, I guess, a lot of time in them. Played a lot of Elden Ring as well. So it just doesn't bother me or doesn't mean as much to me, I guess. So yeah, that's that. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope I will see you next time. Take care. Thank you so much, guys, for watching the video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please leave a like, go subscribe, and follow my Twitch for even more content. See you next time. Bye bye.